While I would wager that most people who know Origin know them for their fantastic fantasy games, I think I might be starting to appreciate them a lot more for their contribution to 90s sci-fi. Cybermage was, and probably still is, my favorite FPS of all time. In-depth and revolutionary with RPG and magic elements, blending genres in a way rarely seen before. BioForge, despite being a new title to me, once again stood out as an extremely one-of-a-kind experience. Marketed as an interactive movie, the game blended a Resident Evil-style third-person experience with a body horror narrative and bizarre martial arts combat. I feel more and more that's what I crave in video games. Not more of the same, but something that stands apart, even if it does so in a not-so-smooth way. And today's game definitely does that. Of course I want good gameplay, but I also want the game to do something new, something I haven't seen before. Crusader No Remorse is a shooter unlike any that I've played before. Being in an isometric viewport already makes this a pretty unique experience. But let's add in dozens of fully acted FMV cutscenes, immersive and wildly interactive environments, and of course, a ton of fun and interesting ways to kill your enemies and yourself. Even the story, while undoubtedly cliché, had its twists and turns, keeping me invested until the end, and provided far more than I would have expected from a shooter. The world on offer here is one you'll be familiar with if dystopic sci-fi is your bag. In the far-flung 22nd century, years of economic instability led to the planet being overthrown by corporations, merging to form the World Economic Consortium. Your typical big bad evil corporation who care about morality about as much as a shark cares about fancy hats. That's to say, not very much. Opposing this super corporation is the aptly named Resistance, a ragtag band of soldiers and civilians opposed to the authoritarian rule of the WEC. You are a silencer, an elite soldier in the employ of the WEC. At the game's opening, you and 2 other silencers have just defected from the consortium after refusing to kill unarmed civilians. In your retreat through the sewers, your team is attacked and killed by a consortium mech. You are the sole survivor. Labeled as a traitor, and with a massive target on your back, you turn to the one group who might take you in, the Resistance. Enemy of my enemy and all that. If I have to describe the gameplay of Crusader in one word, it would be different. At a glance, it almost looks like a modern-day twin-stick shooter, but as we'll be employing 0 sticks and just 1 keyboard, this is anything but. You control the copyright-friendly Red Stormtrooper using the arrow keys, employing tank controls not so different from a survival horror game. Being as this is an action game though, you get a little more than that in the way of movement. Alt and Control can both be used as movement modifiers. Holding Alt will put the silencer in a sort of ready stance, and well held you can take baby steps in any direction while retaining your point of aim. Honestly, I made very infrequent use of this, but it is there. It's good for peeking around corners. Control modifiers, on the other hand, I did use frequently. Holding Control allows you to do rolls left or right, jump forwards, or adopt a kneeling position by pressing backwards. I do feel like a backwards roll would have been much more useful than kneeling. Oh well. On their face, the control scheme isn't bad, but it is very unintuitive. especially for a new player. I probably spent the first third of the game feeling super uncomfortable with the controls, and even by the end, I didn't really feel like things were quite smooth enough. Part of the problem is just the age of the game adds a sort of clunkiness to everything. Like there's a bit of a delay between telling your guy to do a roll and him actually doing it. Even the sprint has a weird sort of build-up to its animation that just slows you down. It's definitely not as fluid as you might expect in a game as action-heavy as this one. It's not insurmountable by any means, but often taking damage felt unfair, like you were trying to get your guy to move a certain way, but it just wasn't happening as quick as you'd like. Even turning to face enemies could be painfully slow. Like you have a guy pumping bullets into the back of your head, and the silencer is just very slowly pivoting towards the threat without a care in the world.
You can sprint turn, but he's no good at it.
And unfortunately, the isometric viewport compounds the clunk factor quite a bit, for a few different reasons. The game world is just chock full of stuff. Explosive barrels, furniture, obstacles, all look great and add a really alive feeling to the world. The problem is it's really easy to get caught up on all that stuff. The hitbox of your character for movement tends to be bigger than you would think. So more than once I would be trying to line up a good roll, or get out of the line of fire, or even just walk through a door, and find myself getting caught up on the edges of everything. I ended up playing most of the game in walk mode and only sprinting in larger open areas, as it was just too hard to get by things reliably. I did get more confident in my movement towards the end of my playthrough, but still think my point stands. There were also occasionally times where your character would slip out of view behind a wall or an obstacle, and getting out became a guessing game as your unseen character gets stuck on walls and furniture. Enemies hiding completely behind walls where you can't see them accounted for more than one of my deaths as well. This could even make interacting with necessary game elements challenging. You needed to get weirdly close to computers to interact with them, often getting stopped up on the big sci-fi desks. You could always get close enough, but it was often a big slowdown in cluttered and cramped spaces. There was more than one occasion where an item would be unreachable behind a desk, or an unbreakable obstacle. Let's talk gunplay. It's good, but not if you try to play this like a Souls-like. I made the mistake early on thinking I should be trying to roll away from attacks, dipping and weaving like Neo dodging bullets. This isn't really the case. Like sure, you don't want to get hit, but oftentimes it is better to just spray a room with bullets to kill everything as fast as you can. Trying to roll all over Hell's Half-Acre dodging things is more likely just to get you hit more, especially as most enemies will have hit-scanning attacks. This is in no way a bad thing, and to be honest, once I embraced the face roll approach, I started to have a much better time. It's extremely satisfying to open the door to a room and just spray everything in 180 degrees with bullets. The power fantasy factor was improved immensely due to the fact that everything in this game explodes. Literally everything. Shoot some guy's desk, it's gonna explode. Blast a garbage can, explosion. A safety railing on a walkway, you guessed it, massive explosion. It makes no sense and is honestly really stupid, but I love it so much as a gameplay feature. It sort of reminds me of GoldenEye, which had similarly exploding inanimate objects. There were a good number of different weapons as well. You start with a basic pistol, but can get weapons ranging from shotguns and assault rifles, to laser and plasma weapons, and of course, a rocket launcher.
It's a grenade launcher.
Okay, but it functions like a rocket launcher, so that's what I'm calling it.
Rocket launcher!
Here? I will say, however, despite the decent variety in weapons, I tended to use the assault rifle for almost the entire game, for a few reasons. Firstly, it's just better than the shotgun. The faster fire rate and increased range just makes it much more versatile, especially when you consider how many threats are going to be at a distant range. There were very few situations where a shotgun would be a better choice. The versatility of that high range and rapid fire was just too good to pass up. The laser and plasma weapons were good, but relied on using energy instead of bullets. Energy was a finite resource replenished by finding energy packs or recharge stations. This wouldn't be so bad on its face, but your energy is also used to maintain your shields. So using energy weapons means you're going to have less defensive capability and burn through energy cells much faster. Add in that energy weapons often melted or destroyed corpses, making them unlootable, and they often just weren't worth using. The rocket launcher was great, but it destroyed everything in a wide radius, including possible supply crates. Generally, it would just be better to use machine gun fire rather than risk destroying everything, including yourself. The rocket launcher was mostly saved for big enemies like the mechs and the cyborgs. A challenge shared between all the weapons was aiming. Essentially, you aim by pointing your guy at the enemies and pressing fire. In theory, an orange reticule would appear on an enemy in your sights, but this was wildly unreliable. Oftentimes, no reticule would appear, and you would still be able to hit the enemy. Or conversely, a reticule would appear, but you would just shoot wide or hit a wall. It sort of felt like I was at the whims of the world's most inconsistent auto-aim system. Add on that an isometric viewport is not the best at displaying depth, and lining up shots could be a real pain in the ass. Add on top the game's occasional verticality, where you're trusting the auto-aim to know that you want to shoot a level up, and that spray and pray strategy starts to be your go-to. If you blast an entire room, chances are good you'll kill the enemies too. Besides guns, there were some usable items, mostly explosives, from landmines to spider bombs to blast packs. To be completely honest, the only one I made much use of was the spider bombs. The others felt very situational to the point of almost being worthless. The spider bombs let you slowly walk a little spider into your enemies, always a satisfying kill on unaware soldiers. The grisly fiery death animation helps a lot. Speaking of the soldiers, let's talk about the AI in this game. Well, it existed. For the most part, soldiers either beelined right at you, or seem to not realize you exist until you are a foot away from them. While there were several different tiers of soldiers, they were all pretty squishy. They mostly provide a challenge due to their sheer numbers in later stages. The greater threats are robotic enemies. From fast cyborgs to the mounted turrets, and even full-on mechs, the robots of this game were no joke. Late-game rocket-mounted mechs were easily responsible for most of my deaths, with shields doing nothing to block explosive damage. I will say, as a caveat to my earlier sentiment, dodge rolling rockets is a really good idea if you like to be alive. Outside normal combat, the game featured countless traps, security cameras, and alarms that would spawn enemies if left active. There was even the occasional puzzle to spice up the action. The level design was usually fairly straightforward, and I never found I was ever too confused with where to go next. Just about every mission would give you an objective to work towards, then escape through a teleporter. It's formulaic, but engaging enough. The story was delivered almost entirely through FMV, which I absolutely love. There were quite a few characters present in this game, and every single one is a stereotype. The Colonel is a cigar-smoking, unshakable badass. The tech specialist is a hacker wizard unlike any other. Even your vendor, aptly named the Weasel, has that oh-so-cliche 90s sleazeball merchant trope going on. He's a lovable sort, though. The acting for all of it isn't exactly award-worthy, but it's all very genuine, and I just love that. The game opens up with a remote briefing from none other than General Maxis, leader of the Resistance. Apparently, our sudden defection from the WEC is seen as suspect, and the Resistance wants us to prove ourselves before they'll let us in on their operations. We're sent to destroy a consortium refinery. We need to make it through the facility and destroy the reactor within. A great first mission, introducing you to basic combat and movement, and the need to watch for traps. About halfway through, we meet a Resistance spy, Professor Wilmar, a scientist with the fortitude of a church mouse. He gives us a key card and scurries away. We'll be seeing him again later. Reaching the end, we blow the reactor and get a call from Corporal Reeves, our teleportation expert and hacker extraordinaire. We escape and teleport out to the Resistance base. Colonel Eli, the leader of this cell of the Resistance, greets us. He tells us the troops here aren't going to be quick to trust, being ex-consortium and all. We make a trip to the cantina to meet more of the crew, including Corporal Yo-Yo Cardova, Private Taxman Andrews, and Sergeant Brooks. She really doesn't like us, and she'll be keeping a close eye on our activities. Before going for our next debrief, we can meet up with the Weasel and his pet ferret. Sadly, the ferret only shows up in this particular cutscene. The beast probably wanted too much in royalties. I can relate. Our next mission is to rescue some soldiers that were captured by the consortium in a recent raid. This level is less industrial and more office. Fighting our way through cubicles and cafeterias, we eventually reach the holding area. While searching for a way to release the prisoners, we meet Dr. Hoffman, your typical mad scientist type. He kills all the prisoners to cover his escape. It probably won't look good that our first real mission with the Resistance resulted in 100% casualties. Luckily, there is one more cell in the back where we can meet Major Vargas. Well, we can at least save her. Back at the Resistance headquarters, the troops are expectedly mad at us for not saving their friends, and they send us on another mission straight away. This time we have to get some sort of mech schematic. It's another very industrial area, and its conveyor belts, flying platforms, and extreme verticality and level design do a great job in showcasing this game's failings. Luckily, this is easily the worst designed level in the game, so it's all uphill from here. At the end, we get a sneak peek at a meeting between Senator Snell, Dr. Hoffman, and Chairman Dragon. They are speaking in hushed tones about something called the Vigilance Platform, as well as Dr. Hoffman's grisly experiments. Not much real info here, outside painting these three as major villains in the plot. The next few missions feel a bit more generic, more factories. Worth noting, poor Private Andrews is killed under our watch, but we recover a top-secret consortium cipher chip. While that's being decoded, we learn of a plot to use massive amounts of nerve gas against the Resistance, except that the consortium doesn't know where the Resistance is, so they just intend to blanket entire cities in the gas, killing thousands. We need to stop this, but we don't even know where that gas is. Senator Snell knows though, so he's our next target. The next mission is a breath of fresh air. As much as this game is quite fun, the environments can get pretty stale early game. It's a lot of industrial sites, bleak office buildings, and factories. This next level is at least a really nice office building. This particular biome has a ton of breakable glass, which is just so much fun in this kind of game. The senator is hiding in his office like a coward at the end. He tries to offer us money and power to let him go, but as we're a mute protagonist of the stoic sort, we just intimidatingly stare him into a teleporter, presumably leading to Resistance interrogation. Next mission is back to factories. We need to blow up the nerve gas. Apparently, blowing it up will make it inert. All problems can be solved with explosives if you just try hard enough. This level ramps things up with the introduction of cyborg enemies, rocket launcher troops, and much more frequent mech use. This is really just the tip of the iceberg though. The combat takes a wild spike up in difficulty from this point on. I guess they expect you to know what you're doing by now? I really don't, so I still die a lot. Blowing the place up is satisfying though. We even get a cool cinematic showing smoking is bad for your health. Returning to headquarters, the Resistance are finally starting to gain some trust in us, except Sergeant Brooks. She still hates us. We learn that Professor Wilmar, our informant from the first mission, has been discovered and is slated for execution. We need to go save him. This level is more of the same, but the end of it is truly haunting. We get to Wilmar in time, and at the prompting of our hacking wizard friend, send him through a commandeered teleporter back to the Resistance. This is what happens. Holy shit. We have a really bad track record for getting people out alive. We retreat to a different teleporter and make the escape alone. I don't know if I would ever trust a teleporter again, personally. That shit was haunting. Before making it back to headquarters, we get a glimpse at Senator Snell. He's apparently escaped the Resistance and is in a meeting with Chairman Dragon. Snell is making all sorts of excuses for his failure when a news broadcast reveals that Snell died in a Resistance attack. That's curious. The chairman then kills Snell himself. Not really surprising. Who would have thought a person willing to kill millions with nerve gas would have no problem punishing failure with death? Next up, we go to eavesdrop on a consortium meeting, and while there discover they've developed a super weapon called the Vigilance Platform, an orbital station capable of destroying entire cities from orbit. They intend to obliterate any cities known to have Resistance sympathizers, which is pretty much all of them. Returning to headquarters with this information, Major Vargas is waiting. Apparently, Colonel Eli has been captured by the consortium, and she will be taking command of this cell of the Resistance. Tragic. While the Resistance gathers intel on the Vigilance Platform, we go off to take care of Dr. Hoffman and his many experiments. Making our way through his lab, the place is filled to the brim with people suspended in liquid tubes. It actually sort of reminds me of the tube you start in Cybermage. Secret world link discovered? Probably not. We find Hoffman at the end of the level. He reveals these experiments are silencers like us, but they lack any compassion. Brutal, efficient killing machines. We blow him away, and then take a couple minutes to destroy all of his experiments. Nobody likes a mad scientist.
How the world will mourn the death of Dr. Gregor Hoffman.
Returning to base, Vargas reveals that apparently Sergeant Brooks was a traitor all along. Some consortium comms gear was found in her personal effects, but she escaped before she could be brought to justice. Seems kinda suspect. Like she hated the consortium. It's hard to believe that she, of anyone, would sell out. Ah well. There are a few more missions regarding the Vigilance Platform, but they really have little bearing on the story. We eventually discover that Colonel Eli is alive, and we're being sent to recover him. Mere moments into this mission, we discover it was a trap to kill us. Major Vargas was the traitor all along. Sergeant Brooks is here, a prisoner to the consortium. We fight our way through the prison complex and set her loose. But upon returning to the Resistance headquarters, we find it's been destroyed, and everyone is dead. This part was such a bummer to me. All my favorite 90s cliches have died off-screen deaths. I will truly have no remorse when I seek out my revenge. With the base destroyed and no more chain of command, General Maxis reaches out to us directly. The Vigilance Platform is fully operational and will soon start destroying cities across the globe. We need to reach it. Fighting our way through yet another consortium factory, we're able to commandeer a shuttle and head up to the station. This last level is absolutely massive and ramps up the difficulty tremendously. Where in past missions one mech could be seen as a mini-boss, here we're fighting them in droves. Add on plasma-wielding soldiers and more cyborgs than you can shake a cybermage at, and this final mission proves the toughest in the game, as it should be. It's the final mission. The level is broken into sections. First, we disable the platform's ability to fire. Next, we destroy the reactor, triggering a self-destruct. Finally, we end things off in dramatic fashion with a frenzied rush to the escape pods. And wouldn't you know it, the last pod is guarded by none other than the traitor, Major Vargas. She apparently has a shield generator of some sort, and can't be damaged by our weapons. A puzzle fight it is then. If you're quick, you can dash past her, grab the key to the shuttle, and escape the station, leaving her behind to die off camera. Exactly what she deserves. The game ends with us in an escape pod, hurtling away from the exploding vigilance platform, Chairman Dragon threatening us all the while. But for now, we've won. His threats can wait until the sequel. Once again, I'm astounded to play a game by Origin that manages to push the envelope in new and exciting ways. The story was cliched, and the FMV acting, well hammy, was super endearing. Like I felt I truly was sitting down to watch some early morning B-tier science fiction on the Space Channel. Does the Space Channel exist everywhere? I'm not sure if that's a Canadian thing or not.
The Space Channel is Canadian. According to your analytics, only 5% of our audience will get this reference.
Either way, all the plot points and character drama were predictable, and not much this game did surprised me, and yet there still was a great depth to it in its own way. I looked forward to that time between missions in the hub, catching up with Yo-Yo and Taxman, getting berated by the salty Sergeant Brooks. It all felt so extra, but in the best of ways. Like I had to remind myself this wasn't some in-depth RPG I was playing. It was really, at its roots, a shooter. Sure, it had a weird viewport, but the meat of the game was shooting things. The character interaction was just perfect for this type of game. Enough to invest you in the story and world, while simultaneously not overstaying its welcome and turning into an RPG or a space opera. They could have made this game with none of the FMV stuff and minimal story, and it probably still would have been a good game. It's that commitment to do the extra bits, to really not be afraid to do it differently, that sets Origin apart. If I'm being objective, the controls for this game are rough, and the gameplay in particular doesn't hold a candle to some of the amazing twin-stick shooter type games that have come out since. Still though, I think this game is so memorable and fun to play despite its clunkiness, and I only felt more confident the more I played. Like, as much as I would rate this as a fun experience on a first playthrough, I can only see myself enjoying the sequel more now that I have a better understanding of how it all works. The only real frustrations in the game are when you feel out of control, and the more you master the mechanics, the more you're able to start having muscle memory take over, the more you will find yourself in that zen state, destroying what I can assume are millions in consortium technology with rockets, bullets, and sheer will, becoming a true one-man army against insurmountable odds not seen since the likes of Doomguy. So while the learning curve may be steep for a new audience, I think fans of the action sci-fi genre owe it to themselves to give this one some attention. Someone needs to silence the corporations. See you in the next video.